Hey guys, how's it going? Hope you're doing well. My name is Crown, and today I'm going to read you some very interesting stories that I hope that you're gonna love. And now, without further ado, let's go!
Last spring was a dream come true for my family. After years of planning and preparation, we finally moved into our dream home. We have bought the property a while ago and have been waiting for the right moment to make our dream home a reality. This place was unlike any other, nestled in the back of nowhere, with our nearest neighbor a mile down the road. We had hundreds of acres to play with, and I decided to turn a chunk of that land into something straight out of my wildest dreams: professional drift tracks. We had the whole project approved and greenlit by the county. Our future plans included opening a drift school on the property. We even built 6 high-performance cars, each boasting an impressive 800 horsepower, primarily using 5.3-liter Chevy V8 engines. Among them were an E36 BMW, an E46 BMW, a 96 Silvia, a 13 BRZ, a 15 Mustang, and a 16 MX-5. Now you're probably wondering, why am I telling you all of this? Well, the thing is, our little slice of paradise is loud and smoky, especially when we fire up those beasts for some drift action. However, we hadn't encountered any problems for the past 7 or 8 months, except for a trespasser who ruined his car and our shed. But today, that changed. With family in town for the holidays, including my cousin who I had grown up drifting with, it was a perfect time to introduce his 17-year-old son to the thrill of drifting. So we grabbed a couple of the track cars and went all out. After about 40 minutes of heart-pounding excitement and some serious tire swapping, I heard sirens approaching. I stepped out of the garage to investigate. 2 fire engines, a couple of police cars, and an SUV have parked near our property. Confused and slightly worried, I approached them and asked how I could help. They inquired about a fire and the noise, so I explained that the noise was coming from the drift cars and gestured towards the racetrack that sprawled across the property. I showed them all the county documents authorizing the tracks, hoping that would clear things up. And that's when my apparent neighbor, a man in his 50s whom I had never met before, started yelling about the noise and how we should be arrested. A sergeant who had accompanied the responder stepped in to explain that we weren't breaking any laws. As long as we kept the noise within certain hours before 10 p.m. on weekdays and 11 p.m. on weekends, we were in the clear. The neighbor, however, didn't take kindly to this news. He resorted to name-calling, referring to us as a bunch of degenerate, inbred a-holes. He even turned and directed a string of profanities at the sergeant. We had intentionally chosen this property because it was zoned for commercial and automotive use, in addition to being a residential area. The fire department left almost as soon as they arrived, after the neighbor had his meltdown and was promptly trespassed by the police. A couple of officers stuck around to watch us take a few more laps, and I even offered to teach them for free if they were interested. Eventually they too left, leaving us to continue our thrilling day. Feeling a bit rattled by the confrontation with the neighbor, I turned to Reddit to ask if I was in the wrong for building a massive race facility on our property, which was located in a zone that couldn't have been more fitting for such an endeavor. Update: the story doesn't end here. The neighbor decided to pay us a visit again, this time knocking on our door. He took it upon himself to declare that we would no longer be racing cars on our property, even going so far as to threaten to destroy our vehicles. He was practically foaming at the mouth with anger. This led to him calling the police, who promptly arrested him for trespassing. It is safe to say that this guy was going to be quite an interesting neighbor. We did our best to ensure our property security by installing trail cameras all around, making it impossible for anyone to trespass without being caught on film. Thanks to everyone's concern, we felt a bit more at ease. In the end, the neighbor couldn't shut down our dream drift track, and we continued to enjoy our high-octane adventures in peace. Our little slice of paradise had turned out to be everything we'd ever hoped for, and we wouldn't let an entitled neighbor spoil our dreams. This story I'm about to share happened around 15 years ago, back when I was working as a firefighter investigator in an independent department. Just to give you some context, I was a lieutenant and I was stationed at a pretty large firehouse with 2 fire engines, a newer 110 tower ladder truck, a chief's car, and a utility truck. We had a close-knit group of firefighters, and each day one of us was responsible for cooking. My friend Bob had a job as a general manager of a small grocery store. In front of his store there was a space marked emergency vehicles only. It was reserved for fire trucks and only emergency vehicles, of course. This story revolves around an entitled jerk who thought he could park his fancy BMW in that spot every week without consequences. One day Bob confronted this entitled jerk and told him that he couldn't park there. The response he got was far from pleasant. The jerk replied, "I can park wherever I freaking want. I make more in a day than you make in a week." Understandably, Bob was pretty upset about this encounter, so he called me to complain. Since we were good friends, I decided to do something about it. I hopped into our utility truck, which had the department decals on a door and a single red light on the dashboard, and I parked in the emergency vehicles only spot. As I was walking into the store, I heard the entitled jerk shouting, "You can't park there, it's my special spot." I turned to look at him and calmly explained, "Excuse me, but I'm on official duty and can park there." I pointed at the department decal on the truck door. However, he continued to be belligerent, saying, "You can't be a firefighter, you're a girl. Move your truck and leave. Move your truck and leave, you C-word." This infuriated me. I was proud of my job, and it was disheartening to encounter such a sexist and disrespectful individual. Without a word, I walked into Bob's office to get more information about his ongoing issue with the entitled jerk. As Bob explained the continuous parking violations and his troubles with this guy, I noticed a small notice on the fire suppression system sprinklers indicating that the inspection was coming up. And an idea started forming in my head. Here is where the revenge plot unfolds. I collected some information, left Bob's office, and headed back to the fire station. When I arrived, I went straight to my chief's office and told him about the entitled jerk and his behavior. My chief, a towering 6'6", 320-pound Samoan man who saw all of us as family, listened intently. As I explained my plan to him, he got a gleam in his eye and readily agreed to it. He rushed out and called for a station meeting where I detailed my idea. We decided to send the fire engine and the old truck to the store the next time the entitled jerk parked in the fire lane. Fast forward 2 weeks, Bob called the fire station informing us that the entitled jerk had just parked in the emergency spot again. As I thanked him, I heard the fire alarm go off in the background. I knew this was our chance. I changed into my investigator uniform, without turnout gear, informed my chief, and sent the trucks out. I hopped into the Quint, a type of fire apparatus, and we raced to the store. When we arrived, I spotted the entitled jerk's car right in the emergency vehicle spot. I quickly radioed for one of the engines to pull up right in front of his car, and the truck parked right beside the driver's side door. As I got out of the Quint, the engineer started setting up the ladder, and one of the support struts crushed the front of the entitled jerk's hood. The alarm in the store continued to blare. I went inside to find Bob evacuating the store as the alarm rang loudly. The entitled jerk, after realizing what was happening, came running out of the store. He spotted his precious car and lost his temper. I radioed the police dispatch to request a few officers to the store, as there was a man impeding a fire operation. The dispatcher assured me that they would send some officers to assist. 3 officers arrived, and I asked him to follow me. We headed toward the entitled jerk, and when I shouted, "Hey, leave my firefighters alone," he turned to see me. He rushed up to me, screaming that he would make me pay for damaging his precious baby, his car, and I stopped him and calmly warned that if he didn't leave, he would be arrested. He got right in my face saying, "You did this! I'll have your job for this!" He then pushed me back. At that moment, the officers and I rushed in, tackling the entitled jerk to the ground and handcuffing him. After he was subdued, I informed him that he was under arrest for assault and interfering with a fire investigation, and that his car would be towed for parking in a fire lane. It was later discovered that the car had been crushed by a ladder strut. The entitled jerk received 12 months of probation for assaulting me and interfering with a fire operation, as well as a $500 fine for his illegal parking, the cost of tow, and he lost his precious BMW. The moral of the story is simple: do not park where you shouldn't or bad things will happen. In this case, it led to the entitled jerk's humiliation and the loss of his luxury car. Parking rules are in place for a reason and everyone should follow them, regardless of their entitlement or gender. This happened to me some years back while I was still on undergrad at university in the UK. I had ordered a 32-inch TV for my flat from Tesco and opted to collect the TV from the nearest store that did pickups and collection. Cool. I was happy to be going to get a flat-screen TV to connect and play with my PS3. This was in 2008. Little did I know the trouble that was waiting for me. This Tesco store had the collections area near the entrance before you walk some few meters to the supermarket. Suppose the collections area and the supermarket are in the same massive room without any demarcation except a few meters of space. I went to collect the TV and I had to present the confirmation of purchase email, the email is important for later, in order to collect it. I got the TV in its packaging with no hassle. I decided to also do some grocery shopping, and so I kept the TV, which was quite heavy, in a trolley and went to the supermarket area. I finished the grocery shopping and go to the till. I put the groceries on a counter, but the cashier then asks about the TV. I replied that I have already paid for it as I bought it online and collected it from the collections area. But for some reason, she says that it's possible that I took it from the supermarket shelf. They also sell TVs in the supermarket area. I then presented the confirmation of purchase email to her as proof that I bought it online. She then says with a loud and angry voice, "I cannot read the email and it's not a receipt. You cannot leave with a TV unless you pay for it." It was at this point that I lost my temper and told her that she's quite daft for trying to say that I was trying to steal the TV which I had already paid for. I also pointed out that there must be CCTV cameras and so they could easily check where I got the TV from. Her supervisor, another woman, came along and supported her by saying that since I did not have a receipt, I did not get it from the collections area. The supervisor repeated that I could not leave with the TV. I quickly noticed that almost everyone was starting to stare, probably because I was shouting and I'm a black guy with a foreign accent. And also that a large queue was starting to form as there were only 2 tills open at the time, and I was holding up one of the tills. A quick idea for malicious compliance came into my head. They said that I can't leave with my TV, and so I will stay. I then just said, "Make your move," and I kept quiet. The queue kept piling up, and to my luck, the queue at the other till was not moving fast as well. So after about 15 to 20 awkward minutes of angry customers mumbling about the holdup behind me and a supervisor deliberating what to do, 2 more staff members come over to see what is happening. They talk with the supervisor and then she comes over and asks to see my TV. As she's looking at it, realization dawns on her face. I noticed her reaction but didn't understand why. The supervisor noticed the name. My name was on the TV packaging, which means that I actually bought it online. She then explained to me and apologized in a very squeaky voice, probably because it was humbling for her. I was still angry, and so I told her that she was daft for not checking the packaging in the first place. The supervisor then left to get me a receipt from the collection area. The cashier, feeling foolish, just scanned my remaining grocery items silently with her head down. I left, but not without telling her that she should be more sensible in the future. However, it did not end there. Apparently, the police was called sometime during the Shoutfest. The police arrived as soon as I collected my receipt from the supervisor at the collection area. After talking to the police warned the supervisor and another staff there that they could easily be charged for unlawful detention had the matter escalated. They had no proof that I stole anything, and they chose not to confirm with the collection area in the first place whether I had bought the TV or not. But they still choose to say that I could not leave. I, 21 female, have a 7-month-old son with my partner. My family lives abroad and are coming over to stay and help at Christmas time. For now, my mother-in-law and father-in-law, 60s, Deborah and Bob, are helping me with household stuff and the baby. So far, we haven't had any real issues and they have been a massive help. About 3 weeks ago, I fell down the stairs. I wasn't holding the baby and the baby was safe. However, instead of helping me, Deborah and Bob both jumped to comfort the baby who was crying, and they left me at the bottom of the stairs. My legs were fine, but I was wobbly because of shock and asked one of them to help me up. After nearly 10 whole minutes of being ignored, I managed to stand up on my own and hobble through the living room. I sit down and Deborah says, "What's happened to you? Are you okay?" I'll admit, I saw red. I just said, "I fell down the stairs. Didn't you hear me calling you for help?" Deborah's eyes widened and she said she was too busy fussing over the baby. After an hour, my arm was swelling up and I was taken to the hospital. Luckily, it was nothing serious and recovery time will be quick. After my partner got home in his parents' lift, I told him I no longer want their help after today's event. I can manage on my own, even though it'll be hard. He was taken aback and said they have done a lot for us, and I said I appreciated it all, but they ignored me crying and calling them for 10 minutes after I fell down the stairs. They do not care about me, only the baby, and I was embarrassed I didn't see it sooner. He called his parents to let them know we won't need their help anymore, and his dad said, "Is it about today? We really didn't hear her." My partner just told them they are invited to Sunday roast this week, and that's all. I could tell he was not happy about my decision, but he said he went along with it because, well, I'm the mother. Fast forward to Sunday and my brother-in-law and sister-in-law are guests as well. Sister-in-law has a 3-year-old and is totally on my side, but brother-in-law is not. He told me to be grateful for his parents' support as they are significantly more well-off than my parents are and paid for many newborn/infant expenses and plan to pay for many more as the baby grows. Since then, Deborah keeps calling, asking if we need any help and says she feels awful not seeing the both of you and that she misses the baby. Am I the jerk for not wanting them helping me in my day-to-day life? Edit. Was the baby crying loudly enough that there is a possibility they didn't hear you? No way. The baby stopped crying after 10 seconds and the stairs are like 2 meters from the living room. There is absolutely zero way they couldn't have heard me. First, there was a scream as I fell. Second, the general noise of someone falling, including books falling and wallet plates breaking. And third, me crying and shouting for help. I fell at the top of the stairs and fell all the way down. This wasn't a missed step and a bump shuffle down that hurt my pelvic bone. I fully fell down the stairs and cracked the banister. No way they didn't hear that. The baby also started crying after the initial smack after I hit the ground. And now some comments on the post. Someone saying you're not the jerk. You don't comfort the baby and not look for why they are crying. The noise probably scared the baby. Where did the noise come from? They should have checked on you even if they didn't hear you. If someone shouts in this house, people come to check, even if it's just barely heard. Especially after the sounds of things falling and breaking. Something could have affected how loud they could yell, and they needed help. Another commenter adds, "You are the jerk. Really? You go from they have been a massive help to cutting them off over a misunderstanding? This type of behavior doesn't help people understand each other, live together happily, and be intimate. Talk to each other for God's sake. They have their viewpoint on what happened to. I understand you're upset, but this is so immature." A third commenter goes with, "In your original post you said you asked for help. You even suggested you weren't really even hurt much, just a little wobbly from the shock. Then all of a sudden your edit has a completely different picture. You broke the banister, you knocked a bunch of books off something, and you broke wall plates. Not sure what those are, by the way. Also, all of a sudden you are screaming and crying for help. Well, I don't understand why you wouldn't be doing that for 10 minutes if you weren't even hurt. based on your original post, it is extremely likely they didn't hear you. They'd have to really hate you to know you fell and were screaming and purposefully ignore you and then play dumb about it. But you've given nothing to suggest that they were those kind of people purposely. Everyone makes some dense action sometimes. It doesn't mean it's purposely for hateful reasons, even if it looks that way from the outside. It could just be a misunderstanding.
And now we have reached the end of today's stories. Thank you for watching and see you next time.